Hi, it's Richard with Seller Helper, and I'm going to show you how to set up proper brand defensive advertising on Amazon. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to go to your brand analytics. And if you don't know what brand analytics is, it's up here. You click this little hamburger menu, and it's underneath brands here on the sidebar, and you just click brand analytics. And that'll take you to brand analytics, and it'll look like this. Then the next thing you want to do is highlight search analytics and go down to query performance. You're going to click on that. Once you're there, you'll see something that pops up like this. And what you need to do from here is select a date range that you want to query. So for this use case, I would choose quarterly, and I would choose the most recent year, 2024, and then I would select which quarter, probably the most recent quarter, because really we're just kind of ballparking this data. We need an idea of where you're starting out when you're doing your brand advertising. So you click apply, and once you click apply, it'll pull up that list. Then you need to generate the download. We click generate the download. I always choose comprehensive view. You don't necessarily need that, but it gives you all the data, so you might as well use it. Then you generate the download. Once you've generated the download, it'll show up in your download manager, and you download the file. Then you'll open the file and it'll look something like this. What you need to do first is delete this first row. You don't need it. It kind of gets in the way. And then you will want to add filters. So you can do Control-Shift-L, or you can just add filters right here like this. And once you have this, the column that you're going to want to pay the most attention to is column AB. And that column is purchases brand share percentage. So what this is showing you is what percentage of total purchases are going to your brand. And the reason this is important is because we're trying to do brand defense, and so we want to know how well we are currently selling on our brand search terms. Then what you want to do is go to search, and you'll just type in your brand name. And once you have your brand name typed in, the next thing you'll want to do is go over to purchases total count, which will be column Y. And I like to sort this from largest to smallest, just to make sure that you are seeing everything that is making a sale. And if we go to column AB, you can see that nearly every single one of them is 100%, with the exclusion of these two search terms. So what this means is you probably don't need to advertise very much at all on your branded search terms, because most of the sales are already going to you. But if we do look at the total number of sales, so there are 23 total sales in this time period, and 19 of them went to the brand. That means 80% of the total sales were already going to the brand. So advertising on those search terms isn't really going to help you get more sales, because you're getting all of them already. The only place you would really need to add more advertising are the places where you aren't currently getting 100% of the sales, which is only two search terms, and is only 20% of the total purchase volume. So this is going to be really important when we go to the next step, when we're trying to set up these campaigns, because what tends to happen is people over advertise on their branded searches because they think it is defensive, but really they're actually paying for sales that probably would go to them anyway. So the next thing we need to do is start setting up campaigns. We'll start with the keyword campaigns, since we just looked up the keywords. So now we're in the campaign setup for a sponsored products campaign that we're going to use the keywords from that list to create the targeting for this campaign. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we never use broad match type for our brand defensive campaigns, because that's as good as basically using an auto campaign, and that's not going to be very defensive. So we're not going to use that. The first thing we'll want to use is phrase targeting. And what we'll do with phrase targeting is basically, when you look at your search term list, you're going to want to find sort of root phrases that happen when people are searching your brand. So it could just be a phrase match of just the brand name, but it could also be things, in this case, this is a packing cube. So it could be the brand name plus the model name or the product name. So we'll use the brand name and we'll include the type of product, which is a packing cube. But these packing cubes also have features, so you might want to use something like compression. So we'll enter the brand name and we'll use the word compression. So these are the types of phrases we want to use to our brand defense targeting. But the next important thing to do is make sure we're bidding in a way that is not overspending on our defense. Because if you are doing brand defense and it's more than 10% ACoS, you're overspending, because most likely 80+% of your sales are going to be organic on your brand search terms. Customers don't search your brand name to buy other people's products most of the time. So we need to be very careful how much we're spending and bidding on our own brand terms. The next thing we want to do is add the exact match terms, and this is pretty simple. Whatever the terms are that are creating the most sales volume, the things that are most likely to be searched, you might as well just add those in as exact, so that way you're at least targeting those. Now that we've added our exact match terms, we need to decide what products to advertise with our brand defense. As I said before, most of your sales from your brand search terms are going to be organic. So the best way to leverage advertising on your branded search terms are for new launches, new products, or products that aren't selling very well, or products that you're trying to liquidate. You don't want to be running your top products, your best sellers, on your brand name. People already will buy those, and they will likely buy them organically. That's probably why they're searching your brand name in the first place. What you want to do with your brand defensive advertising when it comes to sponsored products is actually showcase products you want them to buy that they may not know about. And that's not going to be your best sellers. Then we want to change the bidding strategy. Amazon's default is dynamic bids up and down. We don't want to use that for brand defense. Again, we don't want to even run the risk of potentially overspending on brand defense. We don't need to. So you can either run fixed bids or dynamic bids down only. And I would probably opt for dynamic bids down only just because it wastes a little bit less than fixed bids, but fixed bids are fine. The next thing we want to do is product detail page defense. And this is really easy. All you have to do is add the same type of products, the products that may not sell well, that you might want to liquidate, or are new launches, and you want to create a category targeting campaign. And the way you do that is inside sponsored products. You can see you can do manual targeting, keyword targeting, or product targeting. You want to choose product targeting. And when you choose product targeting, you want to choose the category that your products are in. Now, if you have products that are in many different categories, you might want to just create ad groups for each of the categories and target those products a little bit more specifically, but you can do it very broadly speaking as well, and that works too. It's all about the level of nuance you want to incorporate into your defensive targeting, but just sort of follow the 80-20 principle that you'll get 80% of the way there with 20% of the effort, so you don't necessarily have to overcomplicate this defense. So what you want to do is search, if it's not already there, search your category. In this case, the category is travel packing organizers. And then what you want to do is you click refine and you search your brand name. Once you've found your brand in your category, all you have to do is add that target, and you can set your bid to anything, but again, we still want to keep our ACoS fairly low. This is defensive, and on product pages, the strategy is to sort of take up real estate, but you don't want to do so if it's going to be unprofitable. It just doesn't make sense to do unprofitable brand defense. Next, we want to do our sponsored brands defensive targeting. Now, the keyword portion of the targeting is going to be identical to how we did the keywords in the sponsored products. You use some phrases of your brand name, and then you just use the exact matches that often get searched or often get purchases. You don't have to really complicate it more than that. You just have to keep the bidding such that it is profitable. There are a few settings, though, that you want to make sure you're utilizing, and I want to explain those really quick. First, the automated bidding setting inside sponsored brands is something you want to turn off. It doesn't apply to video ads, but just the same, I always make sure I turn it off. Then I set the adjustment to decrease by 99%. The reason I do that is because Amazon will tend to give you primarily bad impressions if you don't force it to give you the best impressions, which are at the top of the page for sponsored brands. Then when it comes to format, you can do any of the three things. Obviously, you can set a video, or you can send people to the store, or you can send people to product pages. In all three cases, the products or pages you want to showcase, again, are new launches, products that do not sell well, or products that you want to liquidate, not necessarily your best sellers. Now, a lot of times you only have videos for your best sellers. You can still use that video, but then use a different product potentially, or a variation of that product that maybe you want to sell better. And when you're sending to your brand story, you might not have pages that go to those specific products. Just make sure you're sending them to pages that facilitate new growth as opposed to directing them towards your best sellers, because they're already probably going to buy those. That's likely how they found your brand in the first place. And when it comes to individual product pages, this is a great place to showcase products, again, that you're trying to liquidate, that you're trying to get more momentum on, or products that are new launches. And finally, we want to do brand defensive display. And this one's kind of my favorite because it tends to work really, really well. So when we're setting up our brand defensive display campaign, we want to pay attention to two things. Firstly, we want to choose the reach optimization strategy. This will have you paying for impressions rather than clicks. And this is a good strategy because it maximizes the number of impressions you get. And generally, it can keep your cost per click pretty low. The next thing we want to pay attention to is the cost control setting. When it comes to brand defense, you probably don't need this. In fact, I wouldn't use it. And I rarely use it when I'm not doing brand defense. So you want to make sure that you turn that off. Then you want to use image. I've had very little success with video display ads, and I don't think it's very helpful for brand defense. So just stick to image. Then when it comes to targeting, we're going to do the same thing we did for product ad targeting. We're just going to search our category and refine it by our brand name. However, in this case, you might find things like remarketing audiences or contextual audiences, and what you want to use is the contextual audience. You can use both, but you want to, at a minimum, use the contextual audience. And just like before, we type in our brand name and add it to our targeting. Now, the bids here can be a little bit higher because, again, you're paying per 1,000 impressions. So I recommend, depending on the cost of your product, starting somewhere pretty high, maybe like $8 to $10 per 1,000 impressions. And that's it. That's how quickly you can set up proper brand defensive advertising on Amazon. Remember, you want to maintain profitability when brand defense advertising. It doesn't make any sense to be unprofitable while doing brand defense. That defeats the purpose of the defense. You also want to remember that most of the sales that you get from your branded searches are going to be organic, so you don't want to waste the ad dollars on your best sellers. That's likely how they found you in the first place. Utilize that ad space for products that are new, products that are not selling well, or products that you're trying to liquidate. Running brand defense with your top sellers is actually probably hurting your sales more than it's helping because you're buying sales that would otherwise be organic. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. And if you need any help with your Amazon advertising, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly or visit sellerhelper.com.